It's a mission aimed at building a permanent base on the moon, but NASA's Artemis mission could be on the chopping block. Speculation is growing that U.S. President-elect Donald Trump could slash NASA's funding as he looks to shave $2 trillion from the U.S. federal budget. Joining us with more this morning is CTV science and technology specialist Dan Riskin. Again, this is all just speculation. We won't know until he's permanently in office. But over the course of his first term, NASA's budget increased, we saw, by 10%. So that could be a good marker. But Trump hasn't explicitly said he's going to reduce that funding this time around. Where are these concerns about Artemis and the funding for NASA coming from?
It's so hard to read that guy. I mean, in every part of what he does.
That is his greatest strength, is his unpredictability.
He definitely has that strength in huge quantities. But when it comes to NASA, he's been very pro-space in the past. He has said that he wants to slash funding, but the person who's sort of his right-hand man on that, Musk, is very pro-space. So
his own space.
Pro his own space, right. And so you think about what Musk is going to want here, right? A strong NASA is good because, you know, lots of money comes out of NASA and goes towards private space companies. On the other hand, you could see it as a competitor against Elon Musk wanting to do stuff on his own. So take the Artemis mission, right? Right now we have a mission where you put a capsule on top of an SLS rocket, you shoot it up there and it goes around the moon, comes back. Soon it'll go to the moon. But that's just one way to launch things. And those SLS rockets are hugely expensive. The progress on them has been quite slow. And Elon Musk has his own private company and his own way of getting things up into space that he would like to have used. So maybe the SLS rocket is on the chopping blocks. And if that happens, what does that mean for the whole Artemis mission? Because that's one component of how we get back to the moon. So how can you be pro-space and yet cut big budgets? It's very hard to predict what he's going to do. Up
until this point, how has progress been coming along for the Artemis mission? We've seen these carefully worded press conferences where they don't use the word "we're delayed," but they're delayed.
Though they are so delayed. I mean, we were supposed to go to the moon this year, right? Yeah. But we're not. Right now, the current estimate is that we're going to go around the moon in 2026, and that's when Canadian, Jeremy Hansen is going to go up there. But it's been slow because we've had the benefit of not having a space race against the Soviets, so to speak, right? Okay. But that's starting to change. China has announced that they want to go to the moon in 2030. And one of the smart things that NASA's current administrator, Bill Nelson, has done is he's really laid out the case that Artemis is our way of beating the Chinese to the moon. Right. And we want to set up a base there before China does, because it's a little bit like whoever gets there first and puts their flag down at the South Pole where we think there's water where a permanent base could be, they're going to have an advantage. And so Bill Nelson has said the Artemis mission as it exists right now is on a trajectory to get us to the moon before the Chinese. And I think that was directly to Trump, sort of saying, don't slash this thing because we've got something good going.
Listen, the appeal to vanity of America as a whole, like the Royal, well, I guess you can't say the Royal America, the Republic, but to America as a whole is always a strong argument. Yes. They like to be first.
Yeah, absolutely. And Trump loves to sort of make his enemies look bad. And so when they are using language about China, I was really caught off guard because it was supposed to be a press conference about why the heat shield repair, what's happening with the heat shield. And it all became a talk about China. And I was like, I'm not the audience for this. Trump is the audience for this. So everybody's trying to predict what he's going to do, and everybody's trying to sort of get their own interests to happen.
That's really good insight. NASA, we know, is relying on the private sector. You mentioned this, and SpaceX specifically, more than ever, as it sort of contracts out this work because it's expensive work. What's your reaction to that trend?
You know what? I think anything... First of all, it's space. So although I want to see us exploring out and doing great things, if there's a delay, if things take an extra year or two, if it happens this way or that way, the stakes are a little bit lower because this sort of feels like it's the new ground, right? I mean, there are other things where, domestic policy, trade, these things matter for people's sort of livelihoods in a different way. So we have the benefit of sort of relaxing and being a little bit more chill about it. But I think, you know what, I'm just an optimist. All these people love space. Everybody loves space. And I think we're moving in that direction. It's really just a question of whether it's going to be more privatized than we're used to, whether NASA is going to continue to be this beacon of hope and progress that it's always been. It's just an uncertain future, and that's because it's a very uncertain president.
Well, you have made things a little clearer for us, Dan Riskin, so thanks for coming on. CTV science and technology specialist, Dan Riskin, good to have you here and in studio.
Yeah, good to be here. Thank you.
If you liked that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.